Hello and welcome to the M.B.Om podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. M.B.Om is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at M.B.Om, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hey friends, I just wanted to pop in and talk a little bit about M.B.Om behind the scenes. When I entered the yoga world as a teacher, I was surprised by how many yoga teachers were struggling with the business side of yoga. And that's why I created M.B.Om. M.B.Om helps yoga teachers and studio owners become entrepreneurs. It helps you to go from surviving to thriving with your yoga business. I am on a mission to change the yoga industry, to teach yoga teachers and studio owners about the business of yoga, and to help you feel more confident, successful, and abundant. After releasing hundreds of podcast episodes, I want to create content that dives deeper into helping yoga entrepreneurs thrive and elevate their businesses. This is where M.B.Om Behind the Scenes comes in. Each week, you will get bonus content from the weekly guest or myself, diving deeper into how you can take the teachings and apply them to your business. This podcast is designed for yoga teachers and studio owners who are ready to take it to the next level. If you enjoy M.B.Om and have been looking for an affordable way to learn more, this is it. For the cost of 2 lattes per month, you will get never-before-heard content that you can't access anywhere else that will give you tangible ways to dive deeper into your yoga business. If this sounds like something you're interested in, let's dive in. Head on over to patreon.com/MBM Yoga and sign up to get behind the scenes now. Once again, that's patreon.com/MBOM Yoga to get all the exclusive behind the scenes content. I'll see you there. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the M.B.Om podcast. I am super excited that you've decided to join me for today's episode of the show. Today on the podcast, we are diving into Corinne McNally's story about running a business on hormone yoga therapy. And this is a perfect example of having a really great niche. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But before we get there, I wanted to give a special shout out to today's sponsor of the podcast, OfferingTree. OfferingTree is your one-stop shop for all things yoga business. They've got you covered for your website, your scheduling software, your booking and payment system, your email marketing, online memberships, online store, and so much more. I'm going to tell you more about them a little bit later on, so stay tuned for that. Now, Corinne is a yoga teacher who is super passionate about women's health and wellness. She's been teaching for over 16 years, and she's also been supporting families as a birth doula. She used to specialize in yoga for pregnancy, and now she really specializes in hormone yoga therapy. She's been certified in hormone yoga therapy since 2017, and this is a specialized method of yoga that has been brought to the world by Brazilian yoga therapist Dinah Rodrigues. And Corinne went to Chile to train with Dinah, and after training with her, she became certified and able to teach this. So she started doing workshops in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which is really close to where I'm from in Canada. And then she just started slowly growing her business. And of course, when the world shut down a year ago, her business came to a halt and she had to pivot to taking everything online, creating a course, and so much more. Hormone yoga therapy is something that I just recently learned about in late 2020. And since balancing hormones is something I've been working with and super passionate about for the last almost decade, I immediately bought Corinne's course and started learning about this practice. And it's honestly been a game changer in my own personal life. So on this episode, we're going to talk about Corinne's background, how she got introduced to hormone yoga therapy, what it's been like building her business around this niche for women. And then just as her business was taking off, we talk about what it was like to transition her business completely online in 2020. We also cover some of her top business lessons and so much more. So this practice of hormone yoga therapy is super interesting in and of itself, but the way that Corinne has been able to incorporate this and bring it into her business, grow it as something that's not super popular, and then just as she's gaining traction, pivot completely is really inspiring to hear. So I hope that you enjoy this episode, and without further ado, here is Corinne. Corinne, welcome to the show today. I'm really excited to have you here with me.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm happy to be here today.
And can you share with listeners where you're joining us from?
I'm joining from Edmonton, Canada. So it's the most northern, one of the most northern, bigger cities in Canada.
Yeah.
And we're in winter, but it's really warm and sunny today.
Nice. I love those like warm, sunny, blue sky days in Alberta. Those are my favorite winter days. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I took the day off yesterday and went out to a friend's off the grid property and snowshoed and tobogganed and just had a really nice afternoon. So
that's incredible. That makes me miss winter, like maybe just a tiny little bit. Yeah, just a small amount.
It's never going away. When you get back, it'll be here or next year or the year after. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm really excited for this conversation. Hormone yoga therapy is something new to my life that I'm really loving so far. And I'm stoked to chat about that and everything you're doing in your business. But I want to start just by talking about your yoga story and how you first got into yoga.
Sure. I have been a yoga practitioner for 40 years. So I'm 56. Almost 57. And I was so lucky to have a drama teacher in high school. So when I started grade 10 at the age, 15, 16 years old, who was a yogini. And so she introduced yoga to me. Every day we did a yoga warm-up. And I have a dance background. And so from the time I was really young, I was dancing a lot. And then I got to high school and I was dancing and doing a lot of drama and theater. And then yoga became sort of my evening practice to calm down and chill from the busyness of my days. So I took I took yoga with me throughout the rest of my life. It's been a part of me. I had 4 children very close together, and I was very young. I had 4 kids in less than 7 years.
Wow.
So I was really, really busy with a husband who worked out of town a lot. And I was called a theater widow, as my husband's an actor. On and off. But anyways, I, for many years, was doing the yoga of raising children. So I would be changing diapers and breastfeeding and doing dishes and laundry and didn't really have time, or thought I didn't have time to get on my mat physically. But I thought those things became my yoga. And it became just, so that's how I saw my yoga during those years. And then I came back physically onto the mat, I guess, in the late 1990s, once the kids started getting a little bit, and then really became more focused and serious with structured yoga in early 2000s.
Amazing.
40 years.
Yeah. That's, I love hearing that you've been doing the practice for so long. I feel like I've been doing it for like 13 years now. And I feel like that's a long time. It's so cool to think about, adding 3 more decades of practice to that and how much you can learn about yourself and your body and life in general. So very, very cool to hear that. And I'm curious for you kind of what your journey was like becoming a teacher of yoga.
So I was working in the arts. I had a full-time job as an event manager for a regional opera and then the regional theater here in Edmonton. And there was a woman who came in twice a week who offered a lunchtime yoga class. And it was just like I was in. So I did that for a couple of years. And then I was just like, oh, I felt like I know it's kind of cliche to say this, but I felt home again. I was just like, oh my God, this is what I need, like on all levels, my body, mind, spirit, everything. This is what I need. Being an event manager is very high stress. So, there was some life changes for me, and I had a block of free time. And I thought, I should take a yoga teacher training. Why not? Deepen my practice, get back on my mat. So that was in 2004. And I ended up taking my first 200-hour level through Trinity Yoga. And they were it's one of the first yoga teacher trainings here, anyways, out west, where you could take it in a year, as opposed to like through the Yoga Association of Alberta. I investigated that, and it would have taken me like 5 years to get my teacher training complete. And I was just like, I don't have 5 years. I was in my early 40s. I was like, I don't have 5 years.
It was 5 years.
Yeah, I know.
Such a long period of time.
I know. So Trinity Yoga, they were out of Nelson, BC, but they were doing teacher trainings in Calgary and Edmonton, Vancouver. So yeah, they did it in levels. So level 1, 2, 3. And so they were little smaller chunks. I can't remember, whatever, 3 into 200 hours, 60 hours, 70 hours, something like that at a time. So that was my first. So that was yoga teacher training. And I was practicing at a studio here in Edmonton where I had never, belonged to a studio. When I first started doing yoga, there were no yoga studios. It was church basements and community halls. But I was going to a studio regularly, and there was a prenatal teacher who needed a sub. And so nobody wanted to teach prenatal yoga. So this was 2004 or 5. And I just said, I had 4 children. I can teach a prenatal class. I'm not certified yet, but what do you think? She's like, you're in. The owner was cool with it. So yeah, I was teaching prenatal yoga before I taught anything.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, I got my 200-hour, like that was 6 or 8 months later. And then I took over the prenatal program there and started teaching prenatal at other studios in Edmonton. And then around the same time, I was teaching up to 10 or 15 classes a week, not just prenatal. I had prenatal, postnatal, hatha, everything, flow, ashtanga inspired. But then I took my certification. I had also had my babies at home. I had 4 home births and had attended many, many, many births of girlfriends. So I was just like, I'm too old to become a midwife, and I don't want to go back to university for 5 years. So again, that 5 years. So I'll doula. So I took a doula certification course and started my business. And at that time, I called it Lotus Moon Wellness. And I was doulaing 4 to 5 clients a month, teaching 10 to 15 classes a week, and running a household.
Wow. That's
so
incredible.
I thought I left
4 kids.
I thought I left 4. Yeah, they're all grown up now and independent, but I thought I was busy as an event manager, event planner. But now I'm like, oh my God, I'm busy day and night.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I had 10 years like that, I guess. So that's kind of been my journey. In 2009, I went to Rishikesh and did my 500-hour level with Ananda at the Ananda Prakash ashram. And that was with Vishvaji. He's quite well known in Canada. I don't know. Have you ever heard of him?
Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like if I did a Google search, it might be familiar to me. He's
got ties in Canada, a couple of Canadian children. And anyways, he has an ashram in Rishikesh. And so I did my 500-hour level there in 2009. And this was before things changed to this like 300-hour. And, you know, it was different in 2009. So, you know, even deepened my practice more. And we did a fair bit of Kundalini Yoga, which was my first real introduction to Kundalini, was at the ashram in India. Hated it.
I mean, it's a pretty weird practice the first time you do it.
Yeah, I just was just like, oh my God, you know, I had lost my mom, and I was, you know, there was still some grief there. And I mean, she had been gone for quite a few years already, but, you know, lots of stuff was coming up, which was, you know, it was just, it was, I was dealing with stuff going on. Came back and didn't start teaching Kundalini because I didn't get certified as a Kundalini teacher. It was, you know, we just did Kundalini yoga well in Rishikesh, but continued on with my teaching here in Edmonton and my doulaing. And I'm semi-retired from the doula world. I actually am pretty retired. I'll take a repeat client, which I think all my repeat clients are done having their babies. My last one was in June.
Amazing.
Yeah. I love doula work, but I'm happy that chapter is, you know, semi-closed. Of course, when my children have their babies, I hope they ask me to be their doula.
If any of the children are listening to this, put that in your brain.
my oldest son has a 7-year-old, and so they invited me to be their doula, which was a huge honor. So I got to be at my granddaughter's birth at home as well.
Yeah.
So, but she's there. There are no more on the way at this time.
Amazing. I love hearing that. And I'm curious, in your journey, where did hormone yoga therapy come into it, and how did you discover that practice?
Mm-hmm. So my life is kind of like in chunks of, okay, we moved to this house in this year, and then that happened, and I went to India and I came home, and, you know, stuff like that. So it would have been about 2015, 16, where I definitely was in perimenopause. And so I'm 56, so I would have been like late 40s, early 50s already, maybe 51, 52. And I was beside myself with how I was feeling. I was achy beyond words. So my doctor I got checked for all autoimmune stuff. No, everything's negative. Achy, migraines, couldn't focus, foggy brain, couldn't go grocery shopping because I felt like I mean, maybe it was partly stress too, but a lot was going on. My cycle was weird, just not feeling well. And I'm a pretty high energy person. And I was just like, what is going on here? So tried CBD oil, tried THC, tried everything, tried some herbs, went to an acupuncturist many times, nothing seemed to be working. My yoga practice, I got to do more yoga. I got to do more sun salutations, more warriors, nothing. So I went on Google and I Googled hormones, yoga, perimenopause, and Dinah Rodrigues came up. So our wonderful Brazilian yoga therapist, psychologist, teacher who created Hormone Yoga Therapy, she was at the very top of the Google search. Went to her website, immediately bought her book. Didn't care that the shipping was $100. Bought her. Yeah, I know. It was just like, the book, okay, €25 or €30. That's not whatever. Bought her book, and, you know, and eventually came in the mail, and opened it up, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Like, okay, well, I'm going to learn by her book. So that's where I got muddled. Is there was, you know, just some of the stuff techniques and stuff. And because I had the 500-hour level yoga teacher training, I mean, I knew, I was familiar with the chakras. I was familiar with Nadi and Ida Pink. I was familiar with all that stuff, but the way that she was presenting it was, I got confused, but I'm just like, I'm doing it. And so I did it for by the book, like seriously, one posture, next posture, following her book. And then, on Google, noticed that she was coming to Montreal to do a teacher training. And I thought, oh my God, this is my opportunity. I'm going to go get certified because this has, and I was starting to feel better, but I still wasn't 100%. And I still was in perimenopause. So booked my flight, paid for my teacher training in Montreal, got notice about a week before it was supposed to start in September, October of 2017. And she canceled. I don't know if she canceled or they canceled her. I don't know which. Got my money back. Okay. So now what am I going to do? So I went to her website again. Actually, I never closed her tab. Never closed the tab to her website. And I just kept thinking, and she didn't have her video or anything yet out on available. So I saw that she had one more teacher training in Santiago, Chile, and that it specified that she would be teaching it in English, because when she does them in Brazil, she teaches them in Portuguese. And when she does them in Germany, they're in German. And when she teaches in the Czech Republic, they're in Czech. So I was just like, it's got to be in English. The one in Montreal was going to be in French. But I just felt like, I'm not fluent in French, but there might be some, enough translation that I'd understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the one in Santiago English, like it specified that it would be in English. So I booked my ticket to Santiago, paid for the course before I told my husband that I was going without him. Yeah. So it was November. And at the same time, I had spent the summer in Mexico. And I don't know, I injured my knee in Mexico, and I got back and had a diagnosis of a shredded meniscus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, just between like trying to learn the practice, having a bum knee, not knowing if this would need meniscus surgery because my MRI wasn't for 6 months, blah, blah, blah. I just I'm going to Santiago, Chile, and I'm going to meet the person whose practice I want to share with the world. So I did. And, it's been I don't want to say life-changing, but it really has. Like, all my symptoms disappeared. I mean, I learned the practice as she teaches it, from, start to finish plus more. Met some amazing women from other parts of the world: Argentina, Morocco, France, Mexico. We had a small group, which was nice. It was very small and intimate. And came back, and I think I offered my first Hormone Yoga Therapy workshop November, January here in Edmonton at the studio where I regularly teach. Had 4 women. And the owner was like, do you still want to run it? I'm like, yes, because those 4 women will tell 4 women, and those 4 women will tell 4 women. So it started building. Yeah. And then Calgary. So, just emailed a couple studios in Calgary, and I didn't care. Whichever one bit is the one that I would be coming to, and went there. I think, I can't remember the timeline. It might've been like a whole year after coming back from 2018 in the fall. And seems like every time I've driven to Calgary and back, there's been a snowstorm.
Oh my gosh, that's such a horrible road to drive in a storm too. It
doesn't matter if it's been October, November, or May. There's been a snowstorm, but not just like one of those ones that you're like, oh, there's a little bit of snow, the highway is dry and clear. No, it's been like the one that takes 8 hours to drive a 2.5 hour journey.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, it's all good. I've presented in Calgary quite a few times. So yeah, and it's growing as well. And then I thought, okay, Edmonton and Calgary, like what's next, right? And so now I'm taking way less doula clients. I'm slowly not advertising anymore. I've taken it off my website. There's been because when I do take a doula client, I'm on call for them. And my on-call period of time starts 2 weeks before their due date until they deliver. So sometimes that's a month. If they go, past their due date a week or two, then so obviously there's no travel time there, and I couldn't even really book a workshop because there's no teachers or there's so few teachers. So it's not like I could call up a sub and say, hey, can you sub this workshop for me for, this day in case I have a birth? So I had to make a decision, right, which way I was going to go. I still continued teaching. And over the years, I cut back on my teaching to 4 or 5 classes a week. So everything kind of tailed back. And I decided, I think in the yoga world, we need to become a specialist. Mm-hmm. And because when I first started teaching, it was easy to be, person of all trades or all like Iyengar influenced, Ashtanga influenced, this and that. And, I was driving around the city. I was driving out of town to teach classes. But I think over the years, and I don't know what you think about this, is that we kind of have to find a niche, right? Find a specialty and then nurture it for it to grow. And so because this practice helped me so much and so many women in that first little period of time, that I decided, this is where I want to go. I mean, I've always been interested in women's health and wellness from a natural and holistic perspective. And why not try to nurture this? Because it is really the practice for me right now.
Yeah.
And
no,
I can take 100%. It into I can Dina's 93 years old and look at her. She's practicing. She's still a businesswoman. I don't know if I want to be working till I'm 93, but
yeah, I feel that. But if I can look like she does, I feel like I might be down. And for anyone who's not familiar with Dinah Rodrigues, just Google her so that you can just get a sense
watch
for
her
what we're talking about.
Interviews. There's a couple in English. There's a lot are in German and other languages, Portuguese, but there are a few in English. Yeah, and you can really get a sense of. She's very down to earth. She hasn't taken on this belladonna or, what I mean? Like this hierarchy yogi thing about her. She's just very down to earth and grounded. She answers her emails within a 24-hour period.
I love it.
I know.
There's so much good stuff in here, and I love hearing your story, and I'm fully on board with needing a niche and that type of thing, especially with the yoga world now, because there's so many more yoga teachers than there were, even 10 years ago. Yeah. But something I just want to back up with a little bit and just, clarify for anyone listening, because I'm sure there's people out there kind of wondering, can you talk a little bit about what hormone yoga therapy is and how it's a little bit different from maybe what we're traditionally
we skipped Yeah, we skipped the section on what is hormone yoga therapy. So for people who have never heard of it and have yet to sort of do the research or investigate it, it is different in a regular. So it's all hatha yoga. It's all hatha yoga. We're all under the umbrella of hatha yoga, but the hatha yoga that we think of traditionally, whether it's an Ashtanga practice, an Iyengar, or a flow vinyasa, is focusing on, yes, the whole body, but not on the endocrine system, but also it's the whole body, mind, spiritual connection. But we hear more emphasis on maybe muscles or tendons or blood flow or feeling well, getting your yoga practice in because you need to get more grounded. So there's this little fine balance with hormone yoga therapy. It's a therapeutic practice because it specifically focuses and targets specific glands. And so for women, it's our ovaries, thyroid, and pituitary. And there is a hormone yoga for men that targets the prostate and testes, thyroid, and pituitary. So it's a practice that consists of 21 postures. 7 we call the warming up. So it's just preparing the body for the daily practice. There are 7 positions, and then 14 in the series. And within those 14, there's 3 little short guided meditations or nidras. It's the same postures that we do every day or as often as you want to do it. We recommend at least five times a week for positive results. And it takes 30 minutes, 28 minutes if you have no distractions, 30 to 34 minutes if you're distracted by something. Yeah, like, whatever, the phone rings, whatever, the door knocks. And no one really knows what the magic is in this practice, but there is, even Dinah says, like it is magic. Now our hormones are complicated, and they change daily. And especially for women, for women who get their hormones checked, they may get them checked at, 4:00 on a Tuesday, and Wednesday at 10 a.m., they're going to be a different level. So our hormones are in a constant flux. And so what hormone yoga therapy does is brings our hormones to a balanced level. So if your body is lacking estrogen, if the estrogen levels are low, the practice will bring the estrogen levels up in relationship to progesterone and testosterone, and vice versa. And so a lot of women ask me, Corinne, do you get your hormones checked regularly? And I've never got my hormones checked, and nor will I ever go get my hormones checked, because I don't need to. I feel so well and energetic and full of vitality that I don't need to. My digestion is working like it's never worked in my life. I sleep like a log. Yeah. So I know a lot of women do go get their hormones checked, and that's fine. But I don't know it's like my genes. I don't know how you are, Amanda, but I rarely weigh myself, and I kind of judge how my genes fit. Mm-hmm. And if I start to feel that the zipper is a little bit harder to pull up, I'm just like, no bag of chips today, Corinne.
Yeah.
Leave that bag of chips, maybe no bag of chips for a week. I'm a chip lover, so
I am too. I don't discriminate against any chips. I have my favorites, but I'll eat any of them.
Me too. I know it's a hard decision when I'm like looking at down the chip aisle. My husband and I have a little rule here in our house that we can only get chips if we walk to the store. We can't buy them if we're grocery shopping.
Ooh,
we have to make,
rule.
Yeah. And in the winter in Edmonton, you think twice whether you want to get all bundled up and walk to, Save on Foods for a bag of chips. But anyways, yeah. So I don't know if that helps. It's the Dinah calls it hormone yoga therapy, and I'm not a yoga therapist. I don't have any certification to be a yoga therapist. So in the big scheme of the yoga world, we are not really allowed to call it therapy. So I've looked at taking a yoga therapy teacher training. And honestly, after practicing and teaching for this many years, it's not where I want to go with my yoga. I'm not really dealing with people with scoliosis and, issue. Anyways, I don't know how to kind of explain this. So you'll see out there in the internet world, HY or HYT. So we kind of use it, we intermingle the HY and HYT. Mm-hmm. I still pay my Yoga Alliance. I'm a member of Yoga Alliance, and because of my years of teaching and being a 500-hour level, I'm a registered teacher trainer as well. So I talked to them about hormone yoga therapy, and they were going to take it to somebody at a higher level, and nothing ever got developed from it. So I still call it HYT. It's HYT because everybody, if they do their research and they learn about Dinah Rodrigues, and she calls it HYT. So so it's HYT.
I think that's fine. We can use that word while being clear that you're not a yoga therapist once you're certified. But I just find this practice so fascinating. And I think for me, when I met Bridget and heard about it, Bridget is somebody that we both know in Calgary. And I just felt like as she was describing her journey with this, I was like, she's like, I was looking for like a magic pill, or people look for magic pills with hormones. And I found hormone yoga therapy, and I was like, well, can I have whatever you're doing?
Can I drink from that well?
Yeah. I want to be a part of this too. And I'm just really new into this journey, but I would imagine that there's a lot of women listening. It's mostly yoga teachers who listen to this show. But even as yoga teachers, I think sometimes we can be really in tune with our bodies and yet know that there's something off. So kind of like you were talking about with getting your hormones tested.
That was my experience.
We can feel something. And I think sometimes we pursue testing because we don't know what it is and we're looking for answers. And I think hormones, like you said, they're really finicky. They change really often. Mm-hmm. They're so dependent on so many different things that it's kind of hard to pinpoint like one thing that's going on, or at least that's been my experience. And I've kind of just stepped back to being like, okay, I'm either sort of in balance or I'm out of balance. And I need to just tune into what my body needs. If it's more sleep, if it's different food, to kind of figure out how to bring myself back into balance. And I'm really grateful to have discovered a yoga practice that can hopefully help keep me in balance.
Yeah, Dinah, that's all such important points. Not just Dinah, but the medical world as well, says that most of the time our hormones go out of balance due to stress. So it becomes a little bit of a cat and mouse game where, we have some stress, our hormones go out of balance, our hormones come back into balance, we go through stress. And, the stress can be daily stress. It can be, something like what we're going through right now, more of a, global type of stress. And within the hormone yoga therapy practice, like I always tell women, because they ask me questions. I mean, some of the questions that I get are, can I just do the part for the thyroid? Can I just do the part for the ovaries? And I always say the recommendation from our teacher, Dinah, is that the practice only works when we do it from start to finish. And that includes the nidras at the end, like the 2 nidras, which take combined about 7 minutes or 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so that if you had a diagnosis from, your doctor that maybe your thyroid was out, or, your estrogen levels are down, or progesterone, we need to do the whole practice. It's not, I'm just going to do this little part. Obviously, while we're learning it and layering it and getting our body used to moving that way and breathing that way. But once we have a good understanding of it, and I have that full video on there so that you can just turn it on and float with it, then that's when we start to notice results. And I mean, they can be really quick. Like I get messages from women that are like, oh my God, Corinne, I haven't slept in 6 years. I'm sleeping. I'm still
That's
having
amazing.
I'm still having hot flashes, but I'm sleeping. And, and they're so grateful. And I'm like, oh my God. And you're not taking a sleeping pill. I call them little Judy Garlands. You're not taking a little Judy Garland. But it takes work. So a lot of yoga teachers, for the yoga teachers that listen to your podcast, I do get lots of inquiries saying, I'm a yoga teacher. Can I just purchase the video? So to back up a little bit, I have the whole course. So that's from start to finish. And that's what you purchased so that you can learn the techniques properly and from start to finish. And then for people that have taken hormone yoga therapy from me in the past 2 years, I created just the video. They get the template, the updated template and manual and anti-stress exercises and pranayama. But I do get emails from women who are teachers. It's really cool because I'm getting some from Boston area. and I say, I understand. I know you're a yoga teacher, but honestly, if you don't learn this the right way from start to finish, because on the video, I just have there's not a lot of instruction. Mm-hmm. You'll be missing pieces to the puzzle. And so, so then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. But, I could see how a yoga teacher would be like, oh, I'll just, buy the video. It's like buying, Ali McCraw yoga video at London Drugs. But it's not.
Yeah,
but it's
no,
not,
for
right?
sure. For sure. It's a unique practice. And now it's time for a short break from the show to talk about our sponsor, OfferingTree. If you're interested in finding an all-in-one platform for online or in-person teaching, then you should definitely check out OfferingTree. OfferingTree set out to make creating your digital presence fun, easy, and affordable. With one click, you can build a website, run online or in-person live classes, sell pre-recorded classes, manage memberships and packages, and much more. Communicating with your students is seamless and easy with their automated email system and email marketing tools. Already have your own website? No problem, because OfferingTree can embed seamlessly into your existing website. They're always adding new features to their platform to make it even better. They just recently released the online store feature that lets you easily sell digital content like yoga videos, challenges, and courses right from your website. If you're looking for a single platform to take care of all of your online and in-person teaching needs, then visit offeringtree.com/M.B.O.M. OfferingTree has been supporting M.B.O.M. for over a year now, and I not only love the product, but I also love the people. OfferingTree is providing special pricing for M.B.O.M. listeners, so be sure to visit offeringtree.com/M.B.O.M. That's offeringtree.com/M.B.O.M. to receive the discount. All right, now back to the episode. I want to bring this back to a little bit about your business. And I know you just touched on something that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but we kind of left off, you were teaching Edmonton, Calgary, spreading this more and more. Can you talk about what it was like to kind of grow your business across North America and just share hormone yoga with like so many communities prior to 2020 happening?
Yes. So it would have been the winter of 2018. And to be honest, I'm one of those people, like how I booked my ticket to Chile was, oh, okay, where's my credit card? I'm going. I live life fairly spontaneously. And I drive my husband crazy sometimes because I'm like that. But obviously it's fun. So I'm not a big planner, but in the early winter of 2018, so this is just a little while after coming back, I thought, okay, I've got these workshops booked in Edmonton and some communities like bedroom communities and Calgary a couple times, but I need to plan a year in advance because I want to spread the word here and how am I going to do this? So basically, it was touching base with yoga teachers who had studios that I met when I was in India. So it was like, hey, it's Corinne. We met 10 years ago in Rishikesh. I love your studio. I now teach hormone yoga for women. Would you be willing to have me come in as a guest and run a workshop? So that's how I kind of got into I went as far east as Montreal, and then I was in a smaller area outside of Ottawa, M.B.O M, with a woman there who I was an acquaintance, had a studio. So that's how I kind of did it, is through word of mouth. There was some disappointments. I covered my own travel and my own accommodation. So if I could stay with a friend, obviously, I kind of was on a party for a year. That's what I called it, my hormone. I called it my hormone yoga tour, and I was, going flying east and then flying west to Vancouver and Victoria. To be honest, it's not. I mean, it was fun, and I got to reconnect with some dear friends and have some fun nights out and dinner and stuff like that. But it's really hard, and it's not sustainable. And I kind of knew it wasn't sustainable when, at the end of 2019, I was kind of feeling like, okay, I'm working so hard at trying to get studios. I don't have a name behind myself as far as a famous yogini. So to get people to trust, to get these yoga studios clientele to trust me in signing up for my workshop was a lot. Even though, we had some really great marketing material, it was a lot, because they're just like, we don't know who this is. We've never heard of this practice before. Oh, I do my hatha 3 times a week. That's sufficient for me. So it was really, really hard. But I was kind of bound and determined to give it a 2-year to 3-year window. And my daughter lives in Los Angeles, and she lives in a really cool neighborhood of Echo Park, Silver Lake. And it's kind of like the epitome of hipsters in yoga studios and Pilates studios. So she messaged or gave me some yoga studios in her neighborhood that she thought this practice would be suitable for. So I found one that would take me. So that was that was a cold call. And it was I had fun because I got to hang out with my daughter for a couple of weeks and taught at a studio in LA. But it was small. Honestly, it was a small group of women that were very grateful for the practice. And then from there, it kind of has spread because they have let women know. So a lot of women that are signing up for the course are LA. They live in California. So my hope is that it will just keep growing that way. I was in Vancouver 3 times. Vancouver's a really tough market to bring a new yoga into.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine.
Yeah. And one of my boys, he's not there right now. He's taking a little break. He's in the film biz, but he lives in Vancouver. He gave up his flat, but I was able to stay in his flat while he was working somewhere else. So, I was exhausted, actually. I was exhausted from being away from home and not having my hubby and my support system and seeing my granddaughter. So the party was fun, but the whole time, that last few months that I was away, I kept thinking, because women were saying, can you get this can you get this sequence in a course? And again, that Boston area, I would receive emails like in 2018 saying, are you ever coming to Boston? And I'm like, well, I'll come if I'm in Montreal or Toronto. It's really close. I can come to Boston, but you have to help me find a studio. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know if you've had experience or talked to other yoga teachers, but it's not easy being on the road like that.
Yeah. It's not my personal experience with my business. My business has been remote, but not in terms of like relying on clients or studios and that type of thing. But I have talked with people who have said very much the same thing. Like, travel is different from traveling and teaching. And there's a lot of work that goes in setting it up and getting there and making sure that you're energetic enough to show up for your students, getting paid, making sure it's worth your time and all that type of thing. And I can imagine that's even more so when it's a new practice that you're trying to sell.
Yeah. And so so I was in LA in February 2020. And it's funny because my daughter's partner is a indie musician, and he had just come off of tour, and he's like, yeah, he was turning 30 in May, and they were supposed to be, and my daughter was going, and they were going to be touring China. And he kept, he was getting messages from his manager saying, I don't know. I think we might have to cancel the China trip. So that was mid-February. Came home for a week, and then I was in Vancouver for 2 weeks at 2 different studios. And because it's a workshop, I was running it as a workshop that was 8 hours. So it was either Friday evening and then Saturday day or Saturday, Sunday. If I was presenting at 2 different studios, I had a week in between of sort of waiting to teach, which sounds like great, but it's tough because you're away from home and you're not with your people, and in your own bed. So yeah, my last workshop was in North Vancouver, and it was right when the pandemic sort of started in Canada. Flew home, it was all good, flew home. Following weekend, I was supposed to teach in Calgary, and the WHO declared, I think, the situation on the Wednesday or Thursday, and then we sort of pulled the plug on Friday morning when I was just about to leave in a snowstorm.
Oh my gosh.
So I had been thinking about taking it online for a long time. It wasn't like, oh my God, we're in a pandemic, I can't teach this practice, I'm going to go online. It had been brewing for a good year, and I've been thinking about it and how I wanted to do it, and started doing my research on the different platforms out there. Oh, to back up, I was in Seattle. Oh, that was amazing. I was a guest at the Northwest Yoga Conference in Seattle at the end of January. So that's where I met Rachel Scott. And she was my roommate, and she does lots of online yoga courses and stuff. And she was just this, this wonderful woman who's just like, do it, Corinne, do it. What are you waiting for? Do it. You can do it. So she just inspired me so much. She said, you've got an amazing product, and you know what you want, like, it's hard to travel around. And I mean, this is before we knew anything about what 2020 would look like. So she was a great inspiration, and she sort of talked about the different platforms, just in a little, let's have a tea conversation. And then I did my research, and I actually took one of her courses on how to create an online course in any subject matter. So again, after taking that course, I zipped through it in a day, like you.
Yeah.
And with hormone yoga. But yeah, so then I was just like, I'm doing it. So, started working on it. And I had the material, I had the bones. All I needed to just kind of figure it out in my mind, how to present it so people would understand it within the modules, because within Dinah's book, it so much is thrown at you at the same time, and it's easy to get muddled. And I wanted the modules, and I'd like to hear some feedback, whether you feel that it's like, okay, now we're going to cover this. Let's practice it. This is what we covered in this chapter,
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that comes across that way for, say, somebody who's never heard of some of these techniques before.
Yeah, for sure. And I one of the things I really love about your course is that you do have a section for feedback at the end. I think that's a really fabulous idea. Maybe just for people who are listening, can you talk a little bit about this transition online and what it was like to create your first online course?
Okay, so I'm, as I've mentioned, a little bit on the older side, and I found that the technical aspect has been, I I'm just not that fast. I'm a fast learner, but I just was like, okay. The platform that I'm using was very user friendly, and they were great. They're based out of Vancouver, but they're international. Thinkific, and I had them on speed dial, and so they helped me and guided me. And then for anybody who's planning on maybe going into developing an online course, pay the extra $1 so that you get the extra help, because it's really hard to do it on your own. I mean, I found. But other than that, it was really, I don't know where my biggest challenge was. Waiting for my son to edit the videos. He got really busy as an independent filmmaker. He thought he'd be like, so there wouldn't be much work for him during this period of time, but he's been extra busy. So, but he eventually, he got it, and, it was, I wanted to launch it in October, but it was launched a month later. So that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that was,
fine.
yeah. And so I didn't have to do any of that. He did all the edit. I had the sound guy, so that I didn't have to do any of that. The transitioning onto the online course has been great. I had a coming soon thing that was going out. So I had a number of women sign up to that. Nurturing students. I love doing that. I don't know what else to really comment on. I haven't paid for any advertising yet. We're going to do a little teaser, like a 45-second teaser. And I just thought I would wait on that and put that out in January, February, and then maybe I'll do some paid ads. But, I'm really trusting that. I'm trusting my third eye. I'm trusting my intuition that this will move through word of mouth. And I know myself, I'm on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. Whenever there's one of those learn more, increase your business, learn more, I don't know whether that's clickbait. Like sometimes I feel like they're clickbait ads, and I don't want anybody to ever think that that's what mine is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like I want it. It's very, very, it's authentic, and people who want it will find it, I think. I've upped my Google game. So what that means is, I don't know what that really means. I have a, professional Google email now, which helps, because people, honestly, that's where they find things, is through Google searches.
Mm-hmm.
So an example is a woman signed up for the course this week from New York, and she's in her early 40s and blah, blah, blah. So we've been back and forth a few emails, and I just, I asked her, how did you find me? Because I didn't see her on any of my social media platforms as a follower, or that she's liked it. So she said, I did a Google search and I found Dinah Rodrigues. And then I Googled Hormone Yoga Therapy North America. And she said, you came up first. So I'm so glad to meet you, Corinne. But yeah, so that's what I mean. Like people who are looking for a natural and holistic way to balance their hormones, no matter what stage of life they're in, I'm trusting will find this online course. And then we'll have positive experience and we'll share it with their people. So did I answer? Is that the kind of the what you're asking as far as transitioning to an online business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of that makes sense to me. And just I'll pull the things out that I heard as kind of, takeaways for anyone who's kind of looking to do this in their business. It's what I heard you say was, paying for customer support with your platform is something that can be really helpful if you're not super familiar with creating courses, which I think most of us aren't the first time we do it, regardless of what generation we sit in. And find somebody who can help you with the production. You hired your son and had all of that help with editing videos and that type of thing.
Yeah,
and
I had nothing to do. In fact, I asked him if I could sit with him as he edits.
Mm-hmm.
He's
he
like,
said no.
well, he not only said no, he said, I mean, he has some really, like, he does stuff for CBC and National Film Board. And he's like, nobody sits beside me when I edit. I mean, you know, he's got his headphones on and he's playing his music and he's got his studio. And it's like, yeah, but I need to tell you what I want in the video. And he's like, chill, mom. I'm like, okay, I trust you. So trust is a big thing. Trust your people that you hire. And, you know, it's an investment. So, I mean, I wanted professional quality, and my iPhone can record pretty good from, you know, my YouTube videos, but it's really not professional quality. And so that's what I'm saying is, you know, invest in the professional end of things so that you have a professional product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a great business tip. And then the other thing that stands out to me that you said is, I think lots of times people create things and maybe they do it more DIY, which is totally fine if that's, you know, your budget and how you want to do it. But then they spend quite a bit of money on marketing. And I think what's interesting from your story is you invested in having this really professional course, and then you've done a lot of nurturing with your clients and had more word of mouth with regards to your launch and that type of thing. And I think that that's a really interesting way to approach it, because when a service and a product kind of speaks for itself, then I feel like it can kind of sell itself in some ways. Like, obviously you've done a lot of work over the last couple of years, and I don't want to take away from that, because you've been working with women, telling women to tell their friends, that type of thing. And so you've been doing that work, but now you've got that snowball rolling and you can kind of just let it roll down the hill a little bit.
Yeah. And, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. And I mean, we're in strange times right now, and, you know, people are watching their budget and their pocketbook on where they spend their money, and, you know, so on and so forth. So I found it a little bit of a challenge to price it, because there's nothing out there like hormone yoga therapy on an online course. As an online, I don't like to call it a course, but as an online program. So, you know, right there and then I was having a little bit of a challenge, but I have a friend who taught marketing at the U of S in Saskatoon. So she gave me some tips on pricing. And then I did like some test. I had some test people. And I gave a couple different price points, and I gave them the course and asked them what they would pay for it. And so I went with the average, right? So that's how I came up with the price of $297 Canadian for this course. It wasn't something that I just pulled out of my hat and went like, this is what I want to price it at, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a challenge for me, because I just was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know. But the feedback has been that they feel that it's priced right, and it's not overpriced or underpriced. I mean, pricing is, I watched so many different YouTube videos and did so much research on not just how to price a yoga course, but any course, any online course. So yeah, it is a bit of a challenge, or just worked my way through it, and then created the video for people who've taken the course before. And, you know, I'm offering more than just the video there as well. So yeah. I just kind of think about, I consider myself a fairly low maintenance person in terms of my hair and makeup and nails and stuff. But I mean, a lot of women spend their money, and maybe because of their professionalism, like their job, and, you know, they maybe spend $300 to go get their hair cut and colored and highlighted. And they do that every 6 or 8 weeks. And then, you know, to have acrylic nails, that's what, $95 every 3 weeks. You know, I kind of like was looking at that and thought that $297 is a very small investment for your self-care and your hormones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would 100% as somebody who purchased the course, like I got your sample at first and did that in like, I don't know, 15 minutes and was like,
Yeah.
yep, I'm sold. I need this program. And I thought about, my going to my naturopath to get, tests and stuff done cost me 110 Canadian dollars a session. So I kind of felt like if this is a practice that I can learn in its entirety, that's going to help me balance my hormones for the rest of my life, like through the next phases of my life, like through having babies and going through menopause. Like those are stages of life I haven't even been through as a woman. So I have lots of hormone stuff to go through in my lifetime. And
and it's
I just
going
thought
to
like,
change.
it's like
It's going to flux.
Yeah, exactly. And I just thought for the cost of less than 3 appointments to my naturopath, which I wouldn't blink at that. If
Or
I
a
need to
massage
go
therapist.
Yeah, for sure. Like if I need that, that's not stuff I blink at. So I just thought, for the cost of 3 of those things, I'm happy to invest in that for this lifetime practice.
Exactly. And just becomes a way of life. You get up in the morning, whatever your routine is, and do your practice before you head out for your day or start your work at your office, in your office or whatever. So I know a lot of women, they mention, oh, I have kids and some mayhem in my house. And I'm like, I get it. I was there. I was in the thick of that for, I don't know how many years. But if you could carve out, I have a couple of women that bought the course, and they both have young families, and they're kind of trying to do it together, like motivate each other to, okay, did you do your HY practice this morning? Where are you? Stuff like that. They're both emailing me. And I just, we recommend morning, but if you're not a morning person, if morning doesn't work for you, carve out that time right before dinner, or take half an hour before you put the kids to bed, or when you put the kids to bed, take half an hour. And I don't think I'm any different. I think we're all the same. I scroll my phone a lot. I do. I scroll my phone a lot. And I just think sometimes I look at the time and I'm like, I've been sitting here for half an hour. And this is all it takes to do the hormone yoga practice is half an hour. So, because, a lot of women say their obstacle is they can't find time to do it or to get on their mat. But again, I'm the mindset that if you really want it, you'll find time. You'll carve out the time. And it may not be every day. It may be every second day or, every third day, but you'll carve out the time. And it usually takes about 3 months to really notice the healing aspects and benefits of the practice.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
For some, like my mama who couldn't get pregnant, my client who couldn't get pregnant, nothing was, she had everything. Like she was ready to go to a fertility specialist, but she had both her and her husband were checked out and everything seemed to be fine. And they were just told to chill out and relax. They'll make a baby. She did the practice for a month every day and got pregnant.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And when she told her doctor said, oh, probably would have happened anyway. And she said, no, if it didn't happen for 12 months prior, and I start doing this hormone yoga therapy practice for hormones and I get pregnant. So yeah, because it is for fertility as well. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Well, I know I'm sold on it and I've loved this conversation, Corinne. If people want to learn more about you or if they want to check out your course, where can they go to find all of that?
So a couple different ways. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Lotus Moon Yoga. And there's another Lotus Moon Yoga on Facebook that is in the US. I think mine comes up. You just have to make sure it's the .ca. And then my website is lotusmoonyoga.ca. You can even just Google Lotus Moon Yoga and hormones and I'll come up, or Corinne McNally.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you so much for Amanda. It's been great chatting with you and sharing the the practice that I'm so passionate about, and have you on board now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Perfect.
All right, friends, I hope that you enjoyed that episode of the podcast with Corinne McNally from Lotus Moon Yoga, all about Hormone Yoga Therapy. If you are interested in learning more about Hormone Yoga Therapy, make sure you go check out her offerings and her course. She's got a free little segment for it, so you can get a feel for what the practice is all about and how she offers it. If you are struggling with hormone balancing or anything like that, I highly recommend this practice. It's really been a game changer in my life over the last couple of months. If you would like to continue this conversation with Corinne and I, we head behind the scenes to talk about how niching down has helped her to grow her business. And we also talk about some of her top tips for anyone who's considering niching down and doesn't really know what to do. Niching down is one of these things that we hear about in the yoga business world a lot, and it's hard work to pick a niche. Sometimes it comes really naturally to us and it seems really obvious, and other times we just like a lot of things and we want to serve a lot of different people. And so hopefully Corinne's story in general has been inspiring and motivating for you. And if you'd like to get a few more tips and tricks and just a few more pieces of advice on how to get started with this work, head on over to patreon.com/M.B.om yoga. The membership gives you access to this episode as well as all of the other episodes. And we've got 25 plus episodes back there diving into all things yoga business. I also want to give a shout out to today's sponsor for the show, OfferingTree. Make sure you go check them out at offeringtree.com/M.B.om. If you have any questions, reach out to me or them. Always love to chat with you about their amazing software that they've created for yoga teachers. And of course, a big thank you to you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the show. I'm so grateful for your continued listenership and support. And I will be back next week with another episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbomyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.